क्या आप IAS की तैयारी कर रहे हैं और कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स को 2.5 लाख तक की फीस नहीं पे करना चाहते? अगर हाँ, तो 22,500 रुपए में घर बैठ के StudyIQ के पेन ड्राइव कोर्स के साथ आप IAS की तैयारी कर सकते हैं। आज ही विजिट करें StudyIQ.com।
Hello friends and welcome to StudyIQ. In this lecture, we will continue our discussion on the Economic Survey Volume 2. We will discuss Chapter 6 of the Economic Survey Volume 2 in this lecture. So, this will be lecture number 9 for your Economic Survey Volume 2. Let us start. First of all, let us look at the international developments in the global economic environment. If we look at the global economy growth, it is estimated to be 3.7% in the year 2018. In 2016, it was only 3.2% and in 2007, it is 3.6%. So, in the global economy, we are expecting a growth rate of 3.7%. Now, coming to the second factor, that is world trade volume. The world trade volume is expected to increase by 4% in 2018. In 2016, it was 2.4% and 2017, 4.2%. So, we will see a hike in the trade volume globally. And third factor, commodity prices. The commodity prices in the international market is also expected to grow. Now, considering all these factors, India has enormous scope in the external sector, especially with regard to exports. Now, coming to the India's balance of payment developments. In the Q1, the balance of payment situation of the economy was very much comfortable. There was some rise in the current account deficit. That means the value of imports were higher than the value of exports. And in the Q1, the reason for this rise in the current account deficit was the surge in the imports, especially that of gold. And the reason for this was there was certain uncertainty over the GST implementation, the goods and services taxes implementation, and this uncertainty gave rise to increase in the import of gold. But this was supplemented by increase in the net invisible receipts. And an increase in the net invisible receipts were due to increase in the net services earnings and increase in the private transfer receipts. Also, the capital flows dominated, and among the capital flows, majority was into the foreign investment and banking capital. We will see the details of the capital flows later in this lecture itself. So, the conclusion is that even though the current account deficit had risen, it was supplemented by net invisible receipts, and therefore it did not affect the BOP situation of the economy. So BOP situation was very much comfortable. Now coming to the trade deficit. India's trade deficit increased by 46.4%, that is $114.9 billion in 2017-18 from April to December. Now let us see what was the reason behind this. Before we look into the factors, we will see who all are the major trading partners of India. And among these trading partners, there are two types of trading partners. One is with those partners which have a negative trade balance. That means there is a deficit trade. And there are partners with whom we have a surplus trade balance. That means in case of deficit trade balance, the imports would be more than the exports, and in case of surplus trade balance, the exports would be more than the imports. Now we will see with which all countries we have a deficit trade balance and with which all countries we have a surplus trade balance. So countries with negative trade balance are China, Switzerland, Saudi Arabia, Iraq and South Korea. The reasons we will analyze later in this lecture itself. These are the top 5 countries with which India has a deficit trade balance or negative trade balance. When it comes to surplus trade balance, the top 5 countries are USA, UAE, Bangladesh, Nepal and UK. That means the exports to these countries are more than the imports from these countries. Now coming to the China factor. India's major imports from China are telephone sets including mobile phones, automatic data processing machines, electronic devices, chemical fertilizers, etc. And major export items to China are cotton yarn, copper, refined and copper alloys, POL items, granite, aluminium ores, vegetable oils, cotton, polymers, iron ore, etc. Now, second major country with which we have a trade deficit is Switzerland. So, imports from Switzerland mainly account for gold. Now, coming to Saudi Arabia, Iraq, etc., mainly due to crude oil imports. And South Korea due to import of electrical machinery and equipments and iron and steel. So these 5 countries are the major trade partners of India with whom we have a negative trade balance or trade deficit. And now we have seen which all are the items on which we import from these countries. You should have a clear understanding of these items, because if you see in the newspapers there is an increase in the price of any of these items, you should understand that the imports will have increased, because these items are mainly imported. So imports will increase, and this will lead to increase in the current account deficit and also prices in the local market, leading to inflation. So this is how in economics everything is connected. And once you are thorough with the concepts and the current affairs, you will get the link, and then economics would become a very interesting subject for you. So you should be able to connect each and every aspect with day-to-day life and how it is going to affect even your life. See, now for example, if the price of any of the imported good, say for example price of crude oil, which we have seen recently that there is a spike. So if the crude oil prices increases in the macroeconomic level, that is at the policy level, it affects because the current account deficit will widen. But when it comes to microeconomic level, that is individual level, how it affects you, the prices of commodities in the market will increase, there will be inflation in the market, so it is going to affect your purchasing power. Also, your cost of transportation will increase, you will have to pay more for your petrol or diesel. So like this it will affect you also. So you should have a clear understanding about how it affects the policies of the government as well as every individual. That is the impact at the macroeconomic level and also the microeconomic level. So this is how economics becomes an interesting subject for you. Now coming to the invisible items. The net travel receipts have doubled because of the increase in the number of foreign tourist arrivals. So it has added to the balance of payment situation. It has helped India. And also the remittances. The remittances are also on the rise, and according to World Bank estimates, India is one among the top remittance recipient in 2017, followed by China, Philippines and Mexico. And among these remittances, there are certain risks posed by our country that we will discuss now. Structural factors are affecting the remittance receipts of our country, like the tightening norms of the hiring foreign workers in USA, again labor market adjustments in Gulf countries, GCC countries, rising anti-immigration sentiments in many countries. So all these factors are posing a risk for our country India. So there are chances that these factors will have a negative impact on the remittances growth in the country. Now we will look at a very important segment of the external sector of our Indian economy, capital or financial account of the BOP. Why this is very important is because this sector is seeing dynamics in the current scenario. So we are discussing about the economic survey in the last year, but if we compare it with the present scenario, we will see a lot of dynamics taking place in this capital account. So it is very important, and from any examination point of view, it is a very important segment. We will see what are the developments in the capital or financial account of the balance of payment. According to the economic survey, the net foreign investment grew at 17.4%. So according to the survey, the growth was 17.4%, and this was mainly due to a rise in the foreign portfolio investment. Now we are discussing about the economic survey, and after this discussion I will explain to you what is the current scenario. So you should be able to compare with the economic survey and the current scenario, and you should be able to form a link between these two, and this will help you to answer any questions in any examinations. Now if we analyze the components of the capital account, we will see that the foreign direct investment had declined by 6.3%. So foreign direct investment means investing in the infrastructure. So direct investments declined, but the foreign portfolio investments had risen up to 78%. So this is a very huge number. India had seen a 78% growth in the foreign portfolio investment. So now the portfolio investment sector is experiencing a different scenario, which we will discuss very soon after explaining this. Now, because of this increase in the portfolio investment, the net foreign investment, which takes into account both FDI and FPI, increased. And if we analyze the factors which had led to more inflow, we will see that the banking capital had increased, the foreign banking capital increased, also overseas borrowings increased. Now, if we look at the outflows, we will see that majority of the outflows was due to repayment of external commercial borrowings. What is external commercial borrowings? External commercial borrowings is when Indian companies or firms borrow from foreign companies or foreign creditors. So, repayment of the external commercial borrowings had led to an outflow of the foreign capital from the economy. So, this is the situation according to economic survey. But it has been a while that the economic survey has been released, and the present scenario with the foreign capital is entirely different. We will see what it is. Now we are going through a phase where the foreign portfolio investment is decreasing, and also there is huge outflow of foreign portfolio investment. So now can you tell me what can be the estimates in the next economic survey, which will be released in February 2019? So that economic survey would say that there has been an outflow of foreign portfolio investment, and therefore the net foreign investment from the country is decreasing. Now, what are the reasons for this outflow? One is the monetary tightening policy by the US Federal Reserve. We have discussed this issue in various lectures, but I am briefing it for your understanding. The US Federal Reserve, which is the apex bank of the US economy, has tightened its monetary policy, which means the interest rates have been hiked. So, an increase in the interest rates will decrease the money supply in the economy. We have discussed this earlier in many lectures. So, tightening monetary policy means tightening the money supply. Money supply will reduce when the interest rates are hiked. So, now the US economy has increased the interest rates. It has two impacts on the Indian economy. One, the investors from the US, those investors will get credit at higher interest rates, which means the loans are expensive in the US. So, since the loans are expensive, the investors from the US economy will not borrow much, and therefore they will not have money to invest in emerging economies like the Indian economy. So, that is one impact. And secondly, the interest rates are high in US, which means the investors in the US economy, those who are interested to invest in the US economy, will get more interest rates. So, investment will give them more returns in the US economy. Therefore, they will prefer to invest in the US economy than in other emerging country economies like the India. So, in the first case, it will lead to outflow of foreign portfolio investment that is already been invested in the Indian economy. In the second case, this will restrict any more investments in the form of portfolio investments or foreign investments coming into the Indian economy. So, in this two ways, it will reduce the foreign portfolio investment in the economy. Another reason is the depreciation of rupee. Rupee has lost its value compared to the dollar. So, depreciation of rupee has weakened the rupee, and it will also attract less investments into the economy. With the depreciation of rupee, almost the economy has become unstable. And thirdly, the increase in the price of crude oil. So, it has again inflated the economy, and this has also contributed to less number of investments coming into the economy. Now, let us look at the composition of trade. Under the trade composition, exports were broad-based. That means the exports were supported not from one single factor, but it was due to multiple factors or multiple commodities that helped in the growth of exports from the Indian economy. So it was broad based, and within the exports itself, engineering goods, petroleum and crude products had shown a good growth. Now commodities like chemicals, textiles, they have shown a moderate growth. Again, gems and jewelry, they have shown a negative growth. So there were many groups of commodities which had contributed to the export structure of Indian economy. Now coming to the imports, one major category which has shown a good growth was capital goods due to our demand for investment in infrastructure. So capital goods had seen 11.3% growth in the imports. Now coming to the trade policy, there were two important developments on the trade policy front in India. One was the midterm review of foreign trade policy, which we will discuss in detail in this lecture, and the second one was multilateral negotiations at the WTO in December 2017. And the multilateral negotiations ended without a ministerial declaration or without a substantive outcome. So we will discuss about the midterm review of foreign trade policy. In the midterm review of trade policy, certain sectors were provided with special packages, incentives, etc. The reason was that in order to promote the exports from these sector. So we have seen exports play a major role in controlling the current account deficit. So if only the exports are improved, then the current account deficit situation will improve. Ideally, for an economy, current account surplus should be the best situation. So if current account has to move into a surplus, the exports will have to increase over the imports, and this will also help the balance of payment situation to better off. So for that purpose, exports should improve, and for improving the exports, packages or incentives were provided to some sections like the leather footwear section, textiles, ready-made garments, labor intensive industries, service sectors like hospital, hotels, restaurants, engineering, educational, accounting firms, logistics division. So these were provided some incentives or special packages with a focus on improving the exports from these sectors. Other developments in the trade policy were with regard to the trade logistics front, and also anti-dumping measures were adopted by the government. First, let us look at the trade related logistics. It is expected that the impact of the implementation of GST, goods and services taxes, will have a positive impact on the logistics front, and if the logistics of the country is improved, it is estimated that it will increase the exports by 10%. Now, what is the problem with logistics sector in India? One is unorganized market, which is in the hands of middlemen. So it is highly unorganized, and therefore the cost of commodities increases, leading to inflation. So if there is a proper or formal channel to provide logistic facilities to any sector, be it agriculture or be it industry, manufacturing, the cost will come down, leading to decrease in inflation. Secondly, it will promote exports, and thirdly, it will provide remunerative prices for the manufacturers or for the producers. So it has many added advantages. So we will now look at what are the challenges in the logistics front in India. One major challenge is the high cost of logistics in India. If the logistics takes place in a formal channel, the cost is very high, and this will impact the competitiveness in the domestic and global market by the way of increase in the prices of commodities. If the prices of commodities comes down in the global market, it will have export competency, and in the domestic market, it will reduce the inflation. So if the cost of logistics can be controlled or can be reduced, it will have a competitive advantage for our country. Second one is an unfavorable modal mix. That means the mode of transportation, that mix is unfavorable. Like a part of the transportation is carried by roadways, partly by railways. So there is a need for this to be corrected. The third one is underdevelopment of infrastructure and warehousing. So logistics should be supported by infrastructure like the roads, the railways, connectivity, etc. And also proper warehousing must be provided. So underdevelopment in this areas also provide a challenge for the logistics in India. Again, multiple regulatory and policy making bodies makes the procedures very complex. So it can also lead to duplication. So there should be a proper policy or guideline which would guide the logistics industry in India. It should be convenient for the stakeholders who are involved in the logistics business. So this can ease the business of logistics and thus provide enormous scope for the country. Next factor is the time taken. So because of all these issues, the time involved in the movement of goods are very large. So if these issues are overcome, the logistics industry will flourish, adding to many advantages for the economy. So what can be done? First one is the formulation of a national integrated logistics policy which should be transparent and also which should enhance the efficiency in this sector. Second one is ease of documentation, faster clearance, digitization of the sector, etc. Third, to bring down the cost. Next one is to bring in professional standards and certification for the logistics service providers. Also, high-end technologies should be used in logistics which can save time and improve the efficiency. Then skills for logistics should be provided for the youth. The demographic dividend in the country is very large, and by providing skills to this young population of the country, maximum advantage can be taken. And this will also increase the job opportunities for them and will raise the standard of living by providing more income. So logistics skilling must be provided to the young generation. Now coming to the exchange rate. According to the economic survey, the rupee strengthened by 2.5%. This was during December 2017. Remember, it was in December 2017. But now if we look at the present scenario, we are witnessing a depreciation of rupee. So in the next economic survey, definitely there will be discussions on the depreciation of rupee, and we have already discussed about depreciation of rupee, the factors contributing to it, the external factors, domestic factors, etc. we have discussed. So if you need a clarity regarding this, please watch the video on depreciation of rupee. You will get a clear idea about the present situation. Now coming to the external debt of the economy. According to World Bank estimates, India's external debt shock to gross national income ratio is 20.4%. That is external debt to national income. Gross national income ratio, it is 20.4%, and it is the second lowest after China's 12.8%. And in terms of the foreign exchange that can be used to cover this external debt, India's position is 5th highest, and the India's debt service rate is 8th lowest. As a conclusion, the economic survey projects that there is enormous scope for India, and one major threat would be the rise in the oil prices. So economic survey had predicted already there would be a rise in the oil prices, and now we are experiencing that. We are witnessing a spike in the oil prices which has impacted the economy, and the supportive policies like the GST, logistics and trade facilitation policies of the government could help. But remember that in the current scenario, the increase in the oil prices has affected the economy into a negative side, and because this is an external factor, the policies and programs within the economy are not able to make a short-term impact. So the fundamental reasons are external and requires long-term measures. Therefore, the present policies are not able to absorb this shock, but there is a definite chance that the situation will change and India will improve. So in the short term also, the RBI, that is the apex bank of the country, and the central government has come up with various schemes and programs like the NRI bonds, open market operations, etc., which we have discussed in the current affair lectures. Along with an understanding of the economic survey, you should have an understanding of the current affair also, because economic survey will provide you with the base or background, but current affairs is what will enrich your knowledge, because economy changes every day. It is dynamic. So you should have a clear understanding of current affairs along with an understanding of the background which you will get from the economic survey. Thank you. You can find the PDF of this lecture on my Facebook page. Thank you.
क्या आप IAS की तैयारी कर रहे हैं और कोचिंग इंस्टीट्यूट्स को 2.5 लाख तक की फीस नहीं पे करना चाहते? अगर हाँ, तो 22,500 रुपए में घर बैठ के StudyIQ के पेन ड्राइव कोर्स के साथ आप IAS की तैयारी कर सकते हैं। आज ही विजिट करें StudyIQ.com।